will hardly know it's in. Push a button if you wanna know our names. Invented in the labs to keep the low life on the taps. Something tells me that there is another aim. Just beneath the skin, keep the massive discipline, so the mob won't stray too far out of line. Tamper with their choice, artificial in a voice, yet they tell us it is harmless and benign. Just beneath their skin, just beneath their skin, just beneath, just beneath, just beneath their skin, just beneath their skin, just beneath their skin, just beneath, just beneath, just beneath their skin, just beneath the skin. Cleverly we're taking it. Everybody wants the children free from harm. Before very long, some will think it hardly wrong if a chip is chipped inside their children's arm. And just beneath the skin, like a shot of heroin, in the interest of the world's security. They say we're on high alert. Come on people, it won't hurt. Be injected, give them your identity. Just beneath their skin, just beneath their skin, just beneath, just beneath, just beneath their skin. Just beneath their skin, just beneath their skin, just beneath, just beneath, just beneath their skin, just beneath the skin. It's a game we may not win. In the first place, we can't see we're being played. If you got a doubt, you should always seek it out. Truth is hard to face, but do not be afraid. Truth is hard to face, but do not be afraid. Just beneath their skin, just beneath their skin, just beneath, just beneath, just beneath their skin. Just beneath their skin, just beneath their skin, just beneath, just beneath, just beneath their skin, just beneath their skin, just beneath their skin, just beneath, just beneath, just beneath their skin, just beneath their skin, just beneath their skin, just beneath, just beneath, just beneath their skin.
And now, live from England, bringing you news and analysis that you won't find on the corporate and government mainstream media. It's the WideShut Webcast.
That was Imani Hakima's new track, Just Beneath the Skin. You can download that for free as of today at imanihakima.bandcamp.com. More independent music coming up later on in tonight's show. But hello again, Resistors. As always, I'm your host, Keelan Balderson, and you're tuned in to the WideShut webcast on Resistance Radio. That's wideshut.co.uk for all of my articles and videos, and resistradio.com for the rest of the network. And I guess I should be wishing everyone an All Hallows Eve. We've got a nice tub of aspartame to give to all the little children running around the neighbourhood. I'll give them a scare. They should come down to the shed of truth, and I'll show them what their government's up to. Maybe show them a video of Gaddafi getting murdered. That should scare the little children. But anyway, there's lots of news that we could be getting to today. But just before we get to the headlines, I do want to give a quick update on my new 7/7 London bombings film. As you may know, if you're a long-time listener or going Pal Talk, it's been taking me ages to get this thing finished. And I've really not had the time to produce exactly what I wanted to. I was going to completely remake the original film, which basically covered everything you could think of to do with the phony war on terror, from the CIA's funding of the Mujahideen, to the Balkans, to the anomalies of 7/7. But this remake, it's really been draining me creatively, and I want to move on and make some more kind of up-to-date content, current affairs, things like that, like I did with the riots documentary. And this has really been holding me back. So what I've done is I've scaled it down a bit, not bothered with a lot of the historical context like the original 7/7 The Big Picture. And long story short, it should be out sometime this week. It will be about an hour long, and it will basically be focusing on what MI5 knew prior to the bombings, which, if you look into it, was a hell of a lot. Multiple warnings from all sorts of different intelligence agencies that terrorists wanted to hit the underground, multiple drills and exercises to prepare for it. There was surveillance of 2 of the alleged bombers beforehand, informants and intelligence assets dotted all over the place. So if we ignore the anomalies of the day itself, like the lack of forensics, the lack of CCTV, all that kind of stuff, it still becomes apparent that we're dealing with, at the very least, criminal negligence. But you have to reach a point where you say, well, there's all these little things they didn't do, all these odd little things here and there, like poorly scanning surveillance photographs of the bombers so they couldn't be identified by other informants and so on. And it becomes clear that there was an element of inside involvement. Now, obviously, a lot of you understand the bigger picture, preaching to the choir here. I know a lot of you have seen my first film. You've listened to me and Tom Secker over the past year. I've had him on a couple of times. But really, this new film, it's for the average person. It's not very speculative. It's just dealing with the facts. And my aim really is to get the average person thinking a bit more about these things. And maybe if they want to dig a little deeper and go where the information takes them, that's fine. But this is going to be a short 1 hour piece. Just kind of an overview of what MI5 knew about the attacks. And that'll be out on my YouTube sometime this week. Probably Friday or Sunday. You know what I'm like with giving dates for things. It always ends up being later than I say it is. But keep an eye out for that. I also briefly mentioned there my England riots film, which has now been viewed by over 48,000 people on YouTube. It's quite a weird feeling to know that many people have kind of listened to what I have to say, but that's the power of the internet. It's also been on Sky TV, the Paradigm Shift TV channel. But the news I want to share with you today is that it's also in the process of being translated into Greek. Some people that run a kind of community centre, I think, in Athens, they're translating the film and will be showing it to the people there. And that really is the power of the internet. One person in a glorified shed can reach all these people across the world. And obviously, the internet does have its downfalls. I've done shows on it before, the whole idea of man merging with machine and the hive mind and all that kind of thing raises all sorts of questions. But in its current form, the internet is an amazing tool for the people to come together and share information and to fight the tyranny and injustice across the world. What are the protesters saying? They're all saying the whole world is watching. And it's true, because the whole world is seeing what's going on and it's spreading like wildfire. We can see what's happening in other European countries. They can see what's happening here. And I think in the long run, that's going to be a good thing for freedom. And I mean, as for the Greek people, I mean, there's a lot we can learn from them, because the whole austerity and the EU dictatorship that they're feeling. I mean, we're not too far behind with our own debt and austerity measures. Things can get a whole lot worse. And we're going to jump into the headlines now. Continuing in that theme of the sinking EU ship, we have the unelected President of Europe, Herman Van Rompuy, and the unelected EU Council's Jose Barroso, and they've written a joint letter to the G20 countries where they claim they've come to a resolution on the EU debt crisis. Yay, we're all saved apparently. Of course, Van Rompuy, his first ever EU speech, he declared it the first year of global governance. And he also famously said that the nation state is a lie. So their agenda is quite clear. Give up all your freedoms to us unelected suits in Europe, and you don't get to vote on it. It's as simple as that. And this is the drivel that they wrote this week, kind of declaring the grand solution to the collapsing EU. The decisions we have taken in our G20 summits to date have been crucial in steering us through the global financial and economic crisis. We have acted firmly and decisively with a sense of urgency and common purpose. In the current economic situation, with world growth slowing. It's funny how bankers think that growth can just keep happening, that we can keep growing and the economy can keep growing every year and house prices can keep going up every year. Things crash because this growth that they're all clamouring after is an artificial growth. Of course growth is going to slow down when the debt catches up with us. That's the economy correcting itself from all this fake printed money out of thin air that they just keep pumping into everything. The global economic outlook is deteriorating. Oh, no shit. We need to renew this collective G20 spirit. Yeah, the G20 spirit. What, the spirit of murdering Ian Tomlinson, the spirit of beating up protesters. So our overall objectives for the Cannes G20 summit should be to help restore global confidence, support sustainable growth and job creation, and maintain financial stability. Yeah, by going into more debt and forcing the people of the EU countries to pay for that debt with more austerity. It doesn't matter if the people end up in poverty, just as long as we get to continue our limo rides and jet planes and pretending that this EU dream's going to work. Within the EU, we are taking all necessary steps to ensure the stability and growth of the euro area. The euro is at the core of the European project. Yeah, the euro currency, which of course Etienne Davignon admitted that the Bilderberg Group created, that wonderful supper club of the corporate elite that's held every year. Ah dear. On 26th of October, we agreed on a comprehensive set of measures to restore confidence and address the current tensions in financial markets. These measures include a sustainable solution for Greece. Our agreement puts Greece on track to reach a public debt ratio of 120% of GDP by 2020. The solution includes a voluntary agreement. Yeah, voluntary agreement. All those people on the streets in Greece, you think it's voluntary, do you? They agreed on a voluntary agreement for a nominal discount of 50% of Greek debt held by private investors. Well, of course the investors are going to accept a 50% a discount in what they're holding, because their investments are worthless anyway. They're just desperate to keep the illusion alive. As long as they still call their investments investments and everyone agrees that they're investments, then their power is still in place. This will ease market pressures on Greece and allow the country to continue its programs of reforms. Yeah, the very reforms that have people in that country on the street rioting because they have nothing else left to lose. A significant further strengthening of the resources of the European Financial Stability Facility, the EFSFSF blah blah blah, which is depending on the specific setup, is expected to leverage up to around €1 trillion. The subsequent ratification of the new European Stability Mechanism Treaty will provide the euro area with a permanent instrument to support financial stability. What a gobful that was. Basically what they mean is more debt, more gambling, more moving numbers about on a screen. They will also create a coordinated plan to reinforce Europe's banking system. We approved a coordinated scheme to recapitalise banks across Europe, and we are working to design an approach for medium and long-term funding of banks. Banks will be required to temporarily increase the ratio of highest quality capital to 9%. Oh look, a 9% reserve is going to save us all now. How about we have a 100% reserve and you stop printing money out of thin air? After taking account of sovereign debt exposures, supervisors will ensure that banks' plans for recapitalisation do not lead to excessive deleveraging of undue pressure on sovereign debt markets. Look, I can't even carry on with this rubbish. It's just meaningless rambling. It all boils down to, we are a few elite that are unelected and we control Europe. There will be a European Union, even if every citizen has to live in poverty to fund it. That's basically what they're saying. To make it seem like the crisis is getting better, we're going to borrow more money from China and Asia, ultimately putting people in further debt. Also, we can continue wearing our suits, sipping our champagne, and feeling important about ourselves. It's all a con. It's all a scam. Does anybody buy this rubbish anymore? Does anybody sit down in a newspaper and read rubbish like this with the Financial Debt Stability Facility Unit? It's all gobbledygook. It's newspeak. It means nothing. It just means they're in control and we're not. And China is having a field day. They own the world's debt. And they also make most of the exports. Everything is made in China, and they own all our debt. There's no real economy left in Europe, or the UK, or the United States. It's all just debt and gambling. Our economy is based on a lie. And all these financial centres pushing this lie are leeching all of our real wealth and forcing us into austerity. The City of London is a cancer. The EU is a cancer feeding off the people. I remember watching a video a few years ago about how really we're just glorified cattle on the farms being milked. And it's not wrong. That's exactly what we are. I mean, what is the end goal? Because China pretty much owns the economies of the world. Are they going to have a war with China? I think that would be tough. Have you seen their population? They can keep coming and coming and coming. We can't even defeat anybody in Afghanistan, the supposed ragtag villagers. You think we're going to defeat China? It's ridiculous that people still think that the EU is a good idea and that we need to come together for the stability of the economy. That's the exact reason why we shouldn't be in the EU, because it's forced every country to bail out the Eurozone. It's like a black hole that everyone's being forced into, when separately would be a lot more secure. But we're pegged to everybody else's debt as well as our own. My advice, if you live in Europe or the US or practically any Western country now, if you still have some savings, if you haven't had to use them all to pay for inflation, then put it in some silver. Because when everything goes belly up, obviously you can't eat silver, and in some instances you probably won't be able to trade in silver. But if you've got savings, they're going to be worthless anyway. You may as well put it in something that if a new system comes along, you're still going to have that store of wealth. Because it's a real thing. It's used in industry. All the electronics and the circuit boards, etc., contain silver. So obviously, get your food and water and shelter sorted out. But if you do have those savings, I mean, it's no good in a bank anymore. What is your contingency plan? I'm not perfect. I'm not going to pretend that I've got everything figured out. I've not got a plan yet. But it's something I think we should be thinking about. What would you do if shit hit the fan tomorrow? Would you be able to, get food and water? Do you know how to grow food? What would you do? How would you protect your family? And related to this story is this week's New World Order quote, where I take a quote each week, either from mainstream media or a politician or whatever, just to show that yes, the agenda for global governance does exist, and yes, people are talking about it, or at least people are using the word in some degree to relate to the global changes we're facing. Because people still think this is a conspiracy theory, that there aren't powerful people who want globalization and further control. Look out your window. That's all the evidence you need. But we're going to go to United Press International and their article simply entitled New World Order ? And this is what it says. Is China now emerging as a banker to the rest of the world? The United States owes China $1.3 trillion out of a total US public debt load of $14.1 trillion. That's how much debt they owe. And the United States also owes almost $1 trillion to Japan. So clearly, 17 EU nations that share the euro currency couldn't turn to the United States to help bail them out of their liquidity crisis. China was the only power in the world that could afford to rescue the euro from collapse. And I don't think it's even going to work. China also has almost 6 million workers on a wide variety of projects all over the world, from a casino complex in the Bahamas to a mineral-rich mountain near Perth, Australia. Greece is the sick man of Europe's common currency union. Its public debt hovers at 120% of GDP. Undermining confidence in the euro, Italy is now co-equal with Greece. It owes a staggering 2.7 trillion, or 120% of its GDP, now the second largest in the world after the United States. Clearly too big to bail out. Silvio Berlusconi's government is hanging by a thread, too weak to take any drastic remedial measures. So yeah, basically expanding on what I was saying, China is kind of the world's banker. But personally, I don't think it's that they're the world's banker through choice necessarily. You know, we have the Anglo-American Israeli establishment or empire or whatever you want to call it, and they're insane. They invade any country they want if it benefits them, and they control us through their fiat, money out of thin air, debt-based banking systems. China can see the expansion of the New World Order. They can see our insane leaders. And I think they can also see that element of desperation within our leaders, who are constantly printing more money out of thin air to keep the system alive, pumping out more propaganda to make us believe that everything is still hunky-dory, invading more countries like Libya to keep feeding the beast. China's doing well, and I don't think they want to stir that pot, so they lend money when they're asked to lend money, and they generally just stay out of things. Think back to Obama's visit to the UK earlier in the year. I uploaded the video on YouTube. He said, America, Britain and Europe, and which automatically obviously means Israel's coming along for the ride. He basically said, we will lead the international order, that we're still in control. And as much as China and Russia and so on would give us a run for our money in a war, a new Cold War perhaps, I don't think they actually want to go there yet. Nobody really wants war deep down, I don't think, other than our psychopathic leaders. If we go into Iran, then maybe that's the tipping point of World War III. But for now, I think China is just happy to keep giving money when they ask it, to allow the New World Order to keep trudging along. They're just hedging their bets. They're just securing their economy in case something happens in the future. So my point is, I don't think China is the world's banker in a sense that they're the seat of this agenda, that they're controlling everything, like the article it's kind of hinting at. They're just buying their time, securing themselves in case our insane leaders decide to go completely global and hit Iran or Russia and start World War III. China's not going to press the button. They're going to wait for the West to start World War III. And it could also be that the super rich, the uber elite, jump ship to China and leave the West as a sort of captive state, like they planned for Russia when Wall Street funded Karl Marx. The idea was to stagnate Russia and keep it in a communist kind of holding pot, a communist prison, so the robber barons and the crony capitalists could continue their agenda. But obviously the Communist Manifesto decided to spread itself around the world, and they had to stop it from encroaching on the kind of Western Empire. And then we had the Cold War and so on. But anyway, I don't want to fearmonger about world wars or whatever. You know, this isn't an Alex Jones video. I'm not saying Iran is going to be attacked tomorrow. I'm not saying planes are falling out the sky and cash machines are spurting out money, and you know, it's not Y2K. I'm just trying to give you an overview of how I see things. So we're going to go to something a little more lighter. TV licensing workers in new strike. The TV license workers are actually striking, folks. Lancashire TV licensing workers are to stage a second strike in a dispute over pay, it has been announced. The Communications Workers Union said its members are employed by outsourcing giant Capita at sites in Bristol and Darwin in Lancashire will walk out next Monday, October 31st, today. Union officials said there had been no contact from the company or offer of fresh talks since a strike earlier this month. CWU Assistant Secretary Andy Fury said, "It's the sheer unfairness of the company's attitude that has brought us to this situation. Capita is making huge profits, but is still expecting our members to accept a reduced standard of living." I guess they've not looked out the windows at the whole of the world. I mean, it's not just a Capita issue. It's like the TV license people aren't kind of like an isolated incident. This is happening everywhere. You know, why does it have to be their union and that union over here and the students over there? Everyone kind of being selfish in a way. Why can't we all come together and fight the system together? I'd happily welcome TV license people when we were at, you know, Occupy London. If there were TV license people there, that'd be great. But anyway, the fact they haven't been in touch at all shows just how little they seem to care about the CWU, which is the union. With inflation running at 5.6%, pay offers worth around 2.6% mean a pay cut in real terms for staff who are already struggling to pay increased food and energy bills. We want a fair, affordable pay rise which rewards staff. The CWU said Capita staff working on the BBC TV licensing contract have not had a pay rise for almost 2 years. I just found that funny that like even the evil TV license workers are striking. And I know that obviously they're just doing their jobs, they're trying to feed their family, but these people need to realise that their job of going around enforcing the TV licence is part of the control system that is responsible for their poor pay. It's the propaganda wing of the government, and the government is the tool of the elite. They're forcing people to pay a fee for their own brainwashing. It's so funny that people are paying for the bullshit that the BBC pumps out there. And I've done shows on this before, but I don't pay the TV licence. I don't pay it out of protest. And basically because nobody here wants to watch that rubbish anyway. It's a joke. They get their funding from the EU. Well, I don't remember having a vote on the EU, so if the EU is funding the BBC, then that's a conflict of interest in my mind. And no doubt, if we did get a vote, the BBC would be the ones promoting how great the EU is, how good it is for the economy. The BBC is an organisation where their reporters assault people. I'm sure you've seen the video of Nick Robinson, that bald guy with the glasses, turning around and snapping that guy's sign. Just a guy with a sign in a public area. No, the BBC just sets up a tent wherever they want to film. It's a public place. That guy's sign said, "Cut the poor." No, don't cut the poor, cut the war. And this reporter turns around and pulls it off him and snaps it. The BBC are responsible for a lot of these wars, for spreading the propaganda, for gaining support by lying and being the spokespeople for the government. They spread the lies about WMDs. Well, 1 million people are now dead. I hope they're happy. They were the ones promoting the invasion of Libya because we had to help the people, even though 30,000 people in Libya are now dead. I can't support an organisation like that. And maybe some of these TV licence people should really take a look at who they're extorting money for. Capita is not a nice company. The BBC is not a nice organisation. These people's jobs are basically just to scare people into giving them money. It's as simple as that. They're thugs. This is the mob. I'd break out into a Gerald Celente impression there, but I'll leave that to Mrs. Mel Gibson. But I mean, if you're looking to protest the system, the first thing you should really do is stop paying the TV licence. We've not paid ours for 2 years, I think now. And I think Blue Bus touched on it last week as well. And the method for not paying is it's simple. Just stop paying. That's about it. Just stop paying. There, you're not paying anymore. You might get about 4 or 5 visits a year, 4 or 5 knocks at the door to try and catch you out. But you're not obliged to answer the door. And if you do, if you do end up answering the door, if you're expecting somebody or whatever, you just answer the door. Just politely tell them to leave. Just because they've got a clipboard or whatever doesn't mean they have any right over you. If you're busy in your home, nobody has the right to demand your attention or to demand to come in. If they don't want to make an appointment on your terms, then they can sod off. I'm cooking my tea. Go away. This is my home. And it's really that simple. You'll find that you'll get some scary letters with bold red writing on it, but they're just full of just scary buzzwords, and it's all mights and maybes. We might do this, we could do this. I've got a stack of them in here. I like reading them because they're funny. They never do anything that they say in these big scary letters, because unless you invite them in and they see that your TV's on, and then you sign a piece of paper admitting that you're watching TV, they have no evidence. This is what one of them says. If our enforcement officers find evidence that you are using a TV illegally, they may take your statement under caution. Well, if you're not going to let them in, they've got no power. There really is nothing that they can do. It's just about fear. Because people feel guilty, the people they catch out are just genuinely poor people that can't afford it. That have no idea, they're just watching Dancing on Ice or whatever. And they get this knock at the door and they see this scary man and go, oh, I'm really sorry, oh yes, come in, I did mean to pay it, and then they get done for it. They bow down to the uniform. No, it's your house. You do not have to let anybody in. You don't have to speak to anybody. You can even remove what they call your implied right of access. You just serve them a note. Look, you're not welcome here anymore, and they can't come on your property. Well, they might, but it would be breaking the law. And after a while, after a year or so, you'll start to notice that they cycle the letters. They'll get scarier and scarier and scarier, and then they say, oh, we may take you to court. And then it will reset, and they'll go back to the first letter that you got, like 6 months before that. Oh, hello, we've noticed you don't have a TV license at this address, and it all starts all over again. It's just computerized baloney. So if you're still paying a TV license, my advice would be to stop. If you watch TV, stop anyway. Why should an organisation like the BBC get your money? And if you're about to stop watching TV and you were going to let them in to check the aerial and whatever to see that it's not working, don't let them in anyway. It's the principle of it. It's your home. It's your castle. And if you read the stories, even if you do let them in when you haven't got a TV and they check that it's not connected and you're not watching it and you can't get a signal and whatever, that you've thrown it out the window in anger, they still continue to hassle you and send you letters and send people round, so fuck them. Anyway, we're going to go to a quick break, and I'm going to play a song called Thought Crime by Dr. Wong and Old Harry Rocks. It's actually a pretty good song. I was sent it the other day. And if you know anybody else that's like an independent musician or whatever, just let me know and I'll play the music. I'd rather play independent music than commercial stuff. But anyway, we'll be back in 3 minutes.
Where you walk through a body scanner when you cross the border. Welcome to Her Majesty's open prison with microchip IDs and false flag terrorism. Be like the majority, don't want the vote, don't question authority. Get in line and vote. When meanwhile, everybody thinks they're free. Now don't forget to smile because you're on TV. So wake up, it's either now or never. Wake up, gotta fight this together. Wake up, before we're screwed forever. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, it's either now or never. Wake up, gotta fight this together. Wake up, before we're screwed forever. Wake up, wake up, wake up. The bobbies on the beat, but they ain't caring. They'll need you on the street, just for fucking swearing. There's an on-the-spot fine for breathing the air, and they've programmed your mind. Television's left you staring into space, don't think for yourself. With a worried face and concerns for your health, it ain't safe no more. Everybody stays inside, so lock your front door and find somewhere to hide.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a message from Her Majesty's Institute for Brainwashing and Propaganda. Remain as terrified as you can. Please look up to your nearest CCTV cameras. Your face may be recorded. We are all suspects in the new state, scared of terrorism.
Newsflash, there's another pandemic. The pound's crashed, everyone starts to panic. With riots on the streets and no-go zones. The army and police are raiding everybody's home. So this is Britain, but it's not so great. From where I'm sitting, looks like a police state. Never disagree, just follow like sheep and let the BBC play Little Bo Peep. So wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Get off your knees, 'cause it's time to react. And the powers that be take a big step back. They promised us dreams and delivered us a nightmare. Be wise to their schemes, 'cause you know they won't fight. Better systems fucked, there's nothing you can do. The government's corrupt, they don't care about you. They're letting lives go to waste, so they can make it good sin. Is this the kind of place that you wanna leave your kids in? Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up.
Welcome back to the WideShut Webcast. I'm your host, Keelan Balderson, and I'm playing a song again. Sorry about that. Before the break there, we were talking about protesting the system by not paying the TV license. Now, obviously, a lot of people right now have gone a lot further than that with the whole Occupy movement. Obviously, people are now on the streets. And as I said last week, I'm standing back a bit on this one. I went to the first day of the Occupy London, but I'm still not 100% convinced that this is my fight, and I think I can play just as an important cog in this counterculture, doing what I do from afar rather than getting in the thick of it when I'm not certain that everybody is on the same page and I'm not certain of all the agendas at work yet. And I'm not being defeatist. Every experience is a learning experience, a positive experience. And I obviously support people's rights to protest and occupy, and people should be doing that. But I'm a thinker, and right now I'm still thinking, and I don't think that this is my fight yet. It's the beginning of the road that will lead to it, but it's not really my fight yet. But I wanted to give an update on some of the Occupy stuff. To start with Marine Scott Olson. For those that don't know yet, who don't know about this story, Scott Olson is a Marine that's done 2 tours of Iraq, supposedly upholding the Constitution and the freedoms of America. Now, we can have that debate, but the point is, this guy came home, he's actually spoken out against the brainwashing, he had a blog, disagreeing with the Marines and saying how, it was bad and the brainwashing and whatnot. And he obviously knows that the system is wrong and decided to exercise his right to protest. Well, a few days ago, while Scott Olson was doing this, Oakland police shot him in the head with a tear gas canister. They shot him in the head with a tear gas canister and fractured his skull, and now he has brain damage. So where exactly are those freedoms that he was upholding while he was in Iraq? Where's the land of the free and the home of the brave? What's free about not being allowed to protest? And what's brave about shooting an unarmed civilian in the head with a tear gas grenade? It's insane. It's very simple. You fire tear gas up in the air. That's the way they're trained to do it. Up in the air. Not straight into somebody's face horizontally. And the videos of this are horrifying. It sounds like Iraq. All these bangs going off, smoke, people screaming. And the sick thing in all this, I mean, you can call it an accident. I'd say if you're firing at peaceful protesters, no matter how, how you go about it, it's not an accident, because you shouldn't be firing at them in the first place. But let's play devil's advocate. Let's say he's just a really poor aim and shot horizontally. That goes out of the window, because as all these people rush forward after the smoke is cleared, the initial smoke, to help this dying man who's laying bleeding on the floor, a cop throws another grenade into the crowd, right into the crowd, where a visibly injured man is laying dying. So you can't get off the hook saying this was an accident, when they're throwing them at the people when they're coming to help the guy. This isn't a video game. These people aren't armed insurgents. They're American citizens trying to get some justice for the corruption that's going on, that's making their pay go down. And they're being attacked for that. Sorry, yeah, I'm looking into the chat. This is Scott Olson in Occupy Oakland in America. Just type in Marine Scott Olson into YouTube and you'll find a video and stuff. But anyway, yeah, the latest news on Marine Scott Olson is that they believe there's some kind of temporary brain damage. There may be permanent aspects of that, we don't really know yet. And at the moment, he can't talk. This young guy survives Iraq. He's been in a war zone twice after being brainwashed to go over there. And then he's attacked in his own country to the point that his brain is leaking on the pavement and he can't talk days later. This is fucked up. How can America go around trying to free other countries when their own country is doing this? Nobody can look at that situation and say it's the right thing to do. And if people are saying that, then there's no helping them. And the Daily Mail over here actually covered this today, I believe, or it may have been yesterday. The Iraq veteran who was badly injured at an Occupy Oakland protest on Tuesday night suffered minor brain damage and is unable to speak. Scott Olson, 24, so still a young guy, obviously, when he went out to Iraq. He's able to communicate with his family by writing notes, but his ability to spell has been damaged, and he also can't talk. Mr. Olson can understand what's being communicated to him, and doctors said on Friday that he will likely be able to make a full recovery in time. Keith Shannon, Mr. Olson's roommate who served with him in Iraq, said he cannot talk right now, and that is because the fracture in his right. Hang on. Because the fracture is right on the speech. Oh, okay. The fracture is right on the speech center of his brain. However, they are expecting he will get it back. Mr. Olson is believed to have been struck in the forehead by a police projectile, most believing it was a tear gas canister, rawstory.com reports. The impact was so bad, doctors had to place Mr. Olson in a medically induced coma so they could work on the swelling on his brain. Iraq veteran Aaron Hughes, the central and team leader of Iraq Veterans Against War, said he joined the military to fight for people's rights, and that's not what he found himself doing in Iraq. And so he came home and started fighting for the people's rights here and for his brothers and sisters who were still deployed. Chapters of Iraq Veterans Against War have joined Occupy movements across the country as representatives of the organisation. They share the sentiments of the movement, saying that they are part of the 99%. Matt Howard was a Marine from 2001 to 2006 and served 2 tours in Iraq. He said, "There's a lot of solidarity with the Occupy movement. A lot of the same issues that the veteran population is contending is linked with the Occupy protests in terms of economic equality and a disappearing middle class." And you see these hate-filled comments on the mainstream news sites, and they all have thumbs down. It makes you wonder if they're not paid comments because nobody's agreeing with them. But here's one. A hero who is committing a crime is a criminal. Well, what crime was this man committing? Standing there? All he was doing was standing there. Really, I mean, I guess that's a crime now, standing there. Protesting? Is protesting a crime? No, it's in the Constitution. You have a right to protest. Some people are so coddled and brainwashed that they see protesting and they think it's a crime or a nuisance or something that's bad. I caught a glimpse of that awful Loose Women programme the other day, and one woman was saying about the London occupation. You know, she was saying, well, they've made their point now, they should just go home and stop being a nuisance. As if protesting is like their hobby or something, like it's the thing they do. Oh, my son plays football. My son is a protester. As if there's no meaning behind what people are doing. Oh, you've had your little games now, time to go home. Why would they go home? Has the bailout been reversed? Has the banking system been reformed? Have the gamblers who crashed the economy gone to jail? They're protesting because the world has been raped. They're doing it for you. And then there's people trying to rationalise the police actions. Oh, well, the police said move. The police are not the authority. Just because they wear a scary stormtrooper outfit doesn't mean you have to do everything they say when they're clearly in the wrong. Protesting is a right. If you can't protest, then you're living in a dictatorship. And why do you think police have a tactic called kettling? It's called kettling because kettles boil. The whole point is to boil up the protesters so they get angry, then they can swoop in and say, oh, the protesters were getting violent. Well, of course they were. You've just circled them for 5 hours. All of these occupations would be peaceful if the police didn't turn up. As soon as the police get there, that's when things go wrong. And you see the videos, all the protesters are doing is standing there. Peaceful. They're screaming at them, we are peaceful. The whole world is watching. And then they come out and start firing and pepper spray. I mean, they're really not doing themselves any favours here. The government isn't doing their image any good with these actions. When the New York cop who illegally detains those women and then assaults them with pepper spray, the whole world saw that. And they also saw when he got his holiday period cut down as punishment. That's all that happened. You know, he gets 10 days holiday year, they cut it down a bit. Wow, what a punishment for assaulting innocent women. The whole world is watching. This is only going to spur more people on to fight this tyranny. It's going to have a backwards effect than what they want it to. But it's not all bad though. Apparently Baltimore in the US, which I only know about from watching The Wire, sadly, but the police and the firefighter unions have actually come out in support of the Occupy movement in Baltimore. Now, whether that means the police are refusing to police these protests, I'm not sure. I'll have to read more about that. But the news is that the police and firefighters in Baltimore are now in support of Occupy. So, I mean, and I think we'll probably see more of that. Police have had their wages cut. Numbers are being cut all across the world. Everybody's facing austerity. There's no reason for the police to be on the side of the bankers. They just need educating. They need to stop feeling that it's us versus them. But flipping over to the London side of things, where our police have actually been quite laid back. I guess that's because they've got no police left. I mean, what are they going to do? We saw the riots, they couldn't contain that. I think they're worried over here, so they're kind of taking a step back and letting things kind of go ahead. They're trying to do it all legally, trying to pass through laws and stuff, injunctions and whatever. And like I say, the worst thing they could do is turn violent. That would give the movement fire. That would get the whole world watching. But the latest our end, do you remember the news report where it said protesters were not in their tents at night, and that 90% of the protesters leave their tents and go home, and they're just play protesting and all this baloney? Well, it turns out some of the occupiers got some thermal imaging cameras which were used by, I can't remember what newspaper, but the newspapers used thermal imaging to determine who were in their tents at night, because obviously you can't go around knocking on everyone's tent saying, "Oh, get up, are you in there?" or whatever. Well, maybe you could, but they used thermal imaging. Well, some of the occupiers got some thermal imaging, and they went around looking at the tents, and it turns out that thermal imaging doesn't work very well on tents because of the insulation. So basically, the thermal imaging can't pick up whether somebody is in their tent or not. And there's a video of the occupiers kind of doing this thermal imaging, and 4 people get into a tent and it doesn't pick it up. So basically, the media are just either didn't realise and just got it wrong, or they deliberately used thermal imaging knowing that it would look like the protesters weren't in their tents. Just some dirty tricks being played to smear them in the media. But this is the age of technology. It's the age of the internet. People can check these things. And anyway, I mean, what is the problem in going home? It's cold. I mean, what does it really matter? People cycle in and out of these things. But I guess that's just the straw manning of the media. Running out of time quickly, I did want to get onto this story about the Catholic Church. Roman Catholic Church's paedophile investigator jailed for possessing thousands of child porn images. I mean, I don't really want to go into it. I mean, it's the same old stuff. It's an epidemic, folks. I mean, when are people going to stop turning a blind eye to this? It's quite clear that the Catholic Church harbours paedophiles. And if you're religious and you think that's going against you, then you're just being brainwashed by your religion. It's sad that this kind of thing can continue. How is this holy? You know, like, it doesn't make any sense to me. But that pretty much wraps things up for this week, folks. Be sure to come back in half an hour with the Blue Bus and the Reality Check show. But from me, here in the Halloween shed of truth, I'll catch you next week.
If you found the preceding information valuable, please consider buying a DVD or making a small donation of your choosing. Go to wideshut.co.uk/donate. That's wideshut.co.uk/donate. You are the resistance.